Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Infernity Yugioh deck profile for December 2021. I've been playing around with the Infernity deck a little bit more lately, mixing around with some of the combos you can do. This is definitely still a deck that is hit pretty hard by the Yu-Gi-Oh ban list, just for the fact that Infernity Archfiend and also Infernity Launcher are both still at 1, limiting the special summon and search power you could do with the deck altogether. Maybe we'll see some changes in the January ban list, but until then, we'll make do with what we have for the deck. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the Infernity monsters, we do run some lower numbers for the actual Infernity cards. The big part of it all comes down to setup, giving you enough monster resources on the field to use with these monsters. I run 1 Infernity Avenger, 1 Infernity Patriarch, 1 Infernity Necromancer, and 1 Infernity Archfiend. These are just some of the one-ofs for that setup. Infernity Archfiend is definitely one of your most important ones. When you draw this card, if you have no cards in your hand, you can reveal this card and special summon it from your hand. And when this card is special summoned, you can add 1 Infernity card from your deck to your hand. You must have no cards in your hand to activate and resolve this effect. So with it, you have your search power. With this card, it's not a once per turn, so very, very useful there. Infernity Necromancer, giving you more of the special summon option when you have no cards in your hand to special summon 1 Infernity monster from your graveyard. So if you can keep special summoning back Archfiend and then using those resources and then summoning back Necromancer again, special summoning Archfiend, you can keep on getting all those different searches. Infernity Avenger is more of a special summon option from the graveyard when a monster you control, except Infernity Avenger, is destroyed by battle, and then giving you that monster on the field. And Infernity Patriarch, if it's the only card in your hand, you can special summon it to your field, and then also being a protection card in the graveyard. Once again, they're all one-ofs because they are pretty searchable with some other cards, and more for the graveyard setup. For the other Infernity monsters, I also run 2 Infernity Wildcat. You can special summon this card from your hand by sending 1 other Infernity monster from your hand to the graveyard. You can only special summon Infernity Wildcat once per turn this way, and while you have no cards in your hand, you can banish 1 Infernity monster from your graveyard to increase or decrease the level of this card by 1 until the end of this turn. So with this card, you could potentially discard your Archfiend if you open it up, special summoning out Wildcat, normal summon Infernity Necromancer, special summoning the Archfiend back to your field if you have no cards in your hand, giving you that search with both of these cards, and being a tuner, giving you resources to then use Wildcat and Necromancer to then go into your Infernity Doom Archfiend for more plays from there. But I only like to run 2, though. It is a once per turn setup, so opening up too many Wildcats can definitely lock you out of plays, especially since it is the tuner, and you can't really do much with 2 Wildcats on the field, both being tuners. For more special summon options from the graveyard, I also run 2 Infernity Mirage. It cannot be special summoned from the graveyard if you have no cards in your hand. You can tribute this card to target 2 Infernity monsters in your graveyard, special summon. And this is another way to get your resources back onto the field, including Necromancer and Archfiend, being able to use Mirage for that tribute to special summon, and then also relying on some of your other cards, like your Infernity Paranoia, to banish to target an Infernity monster in your graveyard, which you can target Mirage and add back to your hand, giving you that special summon option once more. For more of the generic Dark Attribute setup, I also run the 3 Tour Guide from the Underworld. This is more of a special summon resource to also use this card to set up some of our Fiend monsters, with a good majority of it to special summon 1 level 3 Fiend monster. The targets for Tour Guide, aside from itself, are the 1 Fiendish Rhino Warrior, the 1 Edge Imp Sabers, and the 1 Archfiend Eris. Archfiend Eris and Fiendish Rhino Warrior can all set up cards. Fiendish Rhino Warrior to send Eris, and then Eris can add an Archfiend card from our deck to our hand, the Archfiend card being Infernity Archfiend, and Edge Imp Sabers being able to then use cards like setting up, let's say, Archfiend on top of the deck to draw into it for the special if need be. Most of the time, I just want to rely on those special summons. Saber can help also to take cards out of our hand to then have 0 cards in hand to make use of the other Infernity monsters while still giving us a special summon on the field. For more of the Fiend support, I also run 2 Stygian Street Patrol. If this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you inflict damage to your opponent equal to the original level of that monster, but you mostly use this card for the banish option. When it's in your graveyard, you can banish it to special summon 1 Fiend monster with 2,000 or less attack from your hand. It could be another option if you just have one of the Fiend monsters like your Infernity Necromancer, Infernity Mirage, or Archfiend to special summon and make use of them on the field, whether it be the search for Archfiend, the special summon power for Necromancer, or the setup for Mirage, which is these cards being Fiend monsters. You can set them up in the graveyard that much more easily with your Fiendish Rhino Warrior for that Tour Guide send. And I also run the 1 Danger Jackalope and the 1 Danger Tsuchinoko for more danger setup, special summon resources, especially with Jackalope being able to then special summon Tsuchinoko if it's summoned off of itself, giving you draw power for any other card you set, and giving you graveyard setup, but also being able to rely on these cards for more of a resource to take them out of your hand, so you have less cards in your hand to then resolve all your other Infernity effects. And then also to finish up the monsters, I run 3 Gilasaurus. This is a preference card, just as another easy special summon from the hand. It goes great if you use this card first, so your opponent doesn't have any monsters in their graveyard, because you'll special summon Gilasaurus. You do give them the chance to special summon a monster back onto the field. That's why I mostly prefer to use this card when I go first, and unless my opponent uses a hand trap, I can special summon as many of these as I want without any risk of my opponent getting any resources because of it, and just giving me a free special summon on the field. If I were to have this card second and there really isn't a monster I want to give my opponent, I would use this as another cost card for one of these spells, which I'll say in just a second. For the spells, sadly, just like Infernity Archfiend, Infernity Launcher is at 1. Once per turn, you can send 1 Infernity monster from your hand to the graveyard, and you can send this card to the graveyard to target 2 Infernity monsters in your graveyard. Special summon them. You must have no cards in your hand to activate and resolve this effect. So it is a card that can be searched off of Archfiend, so when you activate this, then you can just special summon Archfiend back onto the field, giving you more and more searches. But yeah, it's a 1 of because, sadly it is at 1 still on the ban list. I think 2 might be a little too strong here. Who knows? We'll see what happens with the January list. I don't think they'll really hit anything for Infernities, but you can always dream for the big fans of the deck. For other search, I run the 1 Infernity Paranoia. You tribute 1 dark monster to special summon 1 Infernity monster from your deck or graveyard with the same level but a different name, but negate its effects. And during the main phase, except the turn when the card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 Infernity monster in your graveyard and add to your hand. So the tribute option works with a good majority of our dark tribute monsters, being able then to special summon the Infernity monster of our choice. We have the level 3s, the level 4s, and all the targets for our Infernity monsters because of it. For more of the draw power options, I also run the 3 Allure of Darkness, more just to draw through the deck for cards that we need for more of our plays. You do have to banish for it, but it gives you more of an option to also potentially draw into your Infernity Archfiend. Having no other cards in your hand, if this works great if you draw just the 2 with Allure, and then banish one of your other Dark Attribute cards from your hand, leaving Archfiend as the only thing in your hand to draw. For more potential opponent disruption and also our own setup, 3 dragged down into the grave. Both players reveal their hands. Each choose 1 card from their opponent's hand. Then you discard the chosen cards and draw a card. So once again, you can set up your own Infernity cards in the graveyard, but the big play here is just to take away your opponent's own resources while still being able to set up your own and work with what you want to set on the field before you activate this card for your opponent's plays. The other card I spoke of using it as the resource for Gilasaurus, and that is Void Apocalypse. You can discard 1 card to send 1 Fiend monster from your deck to the graveyard. You can send this face-up card from your spell and trap card zone to the graveyard to send 1 Infernoid monster, which is an irrelevant effect in this. It's mostly just for the Fiend setup, whether it be for your Stygian Street Patrol, your Archfiend Eris, Rhino, Edge of Sabers, any of your Infernity monsters, you name it, just for a discard. It also helps to contribute towards the less cards in hand, but also the Fiend monster setup in the graveyard. For more of the one-ofs that I run in the deck, I also run 1 Foolish Burial, 1 World Legacy Succession, 1 Monster Reborn, and 1 1-for-1. The World Legacy Succession definitely does come in handy with our Archfiend. Target to special summon after we make a Link monster, giving us the special summon option for searching off of Archfiend, since once again, it is not a once per turn. So the more you can special summon it, the more you can search and plus off of it. And then for the traps, the only traps we run are the Infernity lineup. So 3 Infernity Barrier when your opponent activates a spell or trap card, or monster effect while you control a face-up attack position Infernity monster, and no cards in your hand. Negate the activation if you destroy that card. It's a counter trap. It can stop Solemn lineup. It can stop any activation your opponent may have as long as you have that Infernity lineup and no cards in your hand. Very, very useful. So it's definitely a 3 of, with the last of the traps just being 1 Infernity Break. Barrier and Break are both searchable off of Archfiend as potential targets. You just banish an Infernity to destroy a card your opponent controls while having no cards in your hand with Break. So it all comes down to what you want to use. Do you want to negate a card your opponent may have, or do you want to destroy something of theirs? And that is it For the main deck, moving on to the extra deck, our one go-to synchro for Infernities is Infernity Doom Archfiend, being a card that can negate a monster effect on the field. And if you have no hand cards, destroy that card. And also, it can also deal double damage if it was used as a dark attribute for its synchro summon. And with this card, when it's used for a synchro of another monster, that card can attack twice against your opponent. The biggest way to make use of this card with our other synchros is to lower the level of Wildcat on the field, making it a level 8, to then go into our next synchro resources, which are Void Ogre Dragon and also Beals and also Borreload Savage Dragon. I thought of running 100-Eye Dragon. If you want to run that card in the deck, you could just take out the Beals for that. They're all dark attributes, so they all benefit from the Infernity Doom Archfiend summon, and the fact that they can attack twice is just that much more scary. Void Ogre Dragon, especially with having no cards in hand to stop a spell or trap, but you have all these options available to you depending on what you play. The last of the synchros, I just like to run one Brionac just for more discard options to clear out your hand while still being able to take care of a good number of cards your opponent may have on their field by bouncing them back to their hand. For the Link monsters, I run one Link Karibo. I really rarely use this card. It's just here for the Infernity Mirage option if need be for that play if I have no other Infernity targets. And also the one Cherubini with the Tour Guide. This is just another great level 3 setup for Eris or any of the other fiends. One Crystron Halka Vibrax. Another tuner option to special summon your cat onto the field and then have more plays to go through from there, especially when you set up in the graveyard. One Nightmare Phoenix and also one Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. This can be Borreload if you don't have the Blackluster Soldier. You just have a good number of different monsters on the field at one time to use this. And also one Nightmare Unicorn, one Boral Sword Dragon, one Saryuja. This one definitely does come in handy, once again, monster resources, and one Apollosa. The Link monsters, I would say, are definitely some of the better monsters you'll make in this deck for all those summons, with the last being the one Leviair the Sea Dragon. We run plenty of level 3 options, and your opponent's definitely going to try and banish Infernity Archfiend from your graveyard. So if you can make Leviair with your Tour Guide search and special summon Archfiend back to the field, not only will you get your special summon effect activated for Archfiend, you'll have it back in the graveyard to then make use of later on. As for some of the go-to plays in the deck, a lot of it can wrap up to what you open up with. Tour Guide being a pretty good setup card, because if you summon Tour Guide, you can then special summon out one of your level 3 fiends, whether it be your Fiendish Rush Rhino or your Eris. That you'll go for the Link play, and then also giving you the summon of your Cherubini. You can use the effect of your Fiendish Rhino to send Archfiend Eris, and then Eris gives you the option to add the Infernity Archfiend to your hand. You can't special summon it since it wasn't drawn. It was added to your hand, but then you have this monster as that resource in your hand to use for that summon. And with it, you then have more potential plays to send. You have the Archfiend in your hand to use, and then you also have the potential card being Wildcat as another card you can send off of your Cherubini to the graveyard. With that, even if you have the Wildcat in your hand and the Archfiend in your hand, you can discard it to special summon the Wildcat onto the field, giving you then the additional option to special summon Infernity Archfiend from your graveyard back to the field if you have cards like your World Legacy Succession or Monster Reborn, giving you another special summon target. But the big play will also come down to what you want to send off of the Eris. Let's say the Archfiend's already in your hand. You go for the Tour Guide normal summon. Instead of sending Eris off of the Rhino, you can send your Stygian Street Patrol, with that giving you the option to banish it to special summon the Fiend monster from your hand, being your Infernity Archfiend. If you had the then option to search, you can go for another Infernity play, being the search for one of your cards. Whether you have no cards in your hand, you can go for the Barrier or Break. If you have the option to set up another Infernity monster in your graveyard, like let's say the Wildcat, you can search for the Infernity Launcher play to then give you the setup of your Link monster to use with Cherubini and Archfiend, giving you another Link 3 on the field. And that play will also allow you to set up your launcher, giving you 2 special summons from the graveyard back onto the field. With it, you'll have another Archfiend search, and then from there, you'll have either the option to go into an additional target. You can even search out your Infernity Paranoia. For the tribute to special summon Infernity monster with the same level but different name, you can use Wildcat to then summon out your Infernity Necromancer, or vice versa, using your Archfiend into Patriarch. It all comes down to just how many special summons you can utilize with your Archfiend and what you opened up with in your hand also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Definitely is an interesting deck. Definitely one that takes a lot of combo skill to make full use of, because you have to know what Infernity cards you want to go for, what you need to special summon, and what your end goal game is with the extra deck to summon out also. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Twig out.